We're going to start with a meditation. So we've been doing this stillness in motion practice, resting in stillness, observing the movements of the mind, mental events. So how can we bring this into daily life? Is that also in daily life we want to be able to not get caught up in our thoughts and emotions. But of course in daily life we're not just narrowing down to mental events. We would like to be able to just observe whatever's appearing to the mind, including sensory events, and not get caught up in them. So this is what's called open awareness sometimes. It means to simply be attentive to whatever's appearing to the mind, mental events and sensory events, so including sounds, sensations and so forth, without getting caught up in it. So we're going to do a little bit of a variation then of stillness in motion now. Again, we'll start with resting in stillness to establish the basis, and then we'll start again to observe the movements of the mind. But now the movements of the mind will include all appearances, including sensory. And in particular, often in daily life we tend to be a little bit sort of stimulus reaction machines. You know, some stimulus comes, based on our habit we react. So when we're doing this, what's called open awareness, just observing all the movements of the mind, it would be helpful in this practice to pay particular attention to any reactions we have to any of these appearances. I mean, we're watching all appearances, but in particular paying close attention to any reactions we have, like frustration, irritation, craving, and so forth. So let's do that practice now. And again, we'll keep it nice and short. We'll do 15 minutes. So again, we'll switch the lights off. So preparing the body as normal. And preparing the mind. Resting the gaze in the space in front of you. And again, beginning by establishing a basis in stillness. So simply allowing the mind to come to rest. Resting in awareness. And whilst resting in that stillness, start to become aware of the movements of the mind. And now become aware of all movements to the mind, mental and sensory. Whatever appears to the mind. And in particular, paying close attention to any reactions to anything pleasant or unpleasant that appears. Any questions before we go to this evening's topic? This chart? Yeah.
I had a thought I'm not supposed to have during Shamatha, but I had this feeling that every thought that I attend to is some kind of reaction by itself. And I'm not sure it's true, but this is how I felt. By having this thought, I react to it, because if I didn't grasp to it, it wouldn't be.
Well, of course, we have things coming up. But generally, as they're coming up, then we grab hold of them. So if we're not grabbing hold of them, then virtually as soon as you see them coming, they'll go. So the reacting is when it starts to come up, and then we identify with it, we grab hold of it, and then we sort of go off on our stories. But if we can really be attentive when it first comes up and just see it, then it just, like the waterfall analogy.
So if I have it at all, it's a reaction by itself. So when
it's a reaction by itself. Not necessarily, because there's a lot of stuff coming up.
General question. Buddhism said anything about effect of full moon on
full moon?
Yeah.
Actually, the question is, does Buddhism say anything about the full effect of the full moon? Actually, it was interesting when I did my when I was doing my first long retreat, 8-month retreat. I noticed after a few months there was a couple of days there where my sleep was really quite disturbed. Not disturbed, but not as good as normal. And then after about the third time that happened, I realised it was full moon. So now I keep a check on that. I can often, if I'm somewhere where there's maybe cloudy or something and I don't know the cycles, and I notice that I'm not sleeping very well, I check, and more often than not, it's 1 or 2 days before full moon. Usually by full moon I'm already better. It's usually the 1 or 2 days before full moon, and also the new moon as well, but not as much. But that was my experience. And certainly, of course, at a subtle level, I think if we're practicing at a very subtle level and we're very sensitive to all the energies, we'll pick that up, the effect of the full moon.
Can we choose open awareness as the meditation technique for the next 2 days?
Yeah. So the question is, can we use open awareness for the next 2 days? Sure. Just bear in mind, though, because this is very good preparation for daily life. Yeah? So if you spend a day or two doing this in meditation, that'll help you a lot. But just bear in mind, as a shamatha practice, that's probably not as effective as watching your thoughts and emotions, because it's very broad, so you're moving quite a lot. So yes, it'll be very good as being able to develop the ability to do this in daily life as preparation for daily life, but if you're wanting to pick an object for your sort of standard shamatha practice to do long term, probably open awareness is not the best one, because it's a bit broad. You'll find that you won't be able to go as deep in the shamatha practice. But yes, for tomorrow, the next day, yeah, sure, by all means.
Okay. As you get better, so when you get close to shamatha, for example, does your experience of emotions, so the way that you feel emotions, change, like tangibly? Like, are you having a different...
Well, they change in that they will become more vivid and clear to you and more obvious. Now often there's sort of these things happening and it's a bit vague and we don't... And of course also now when emotion comes up we're really latching onto it more or less immediately, so we're like this. So you'll find that you'll be able to see them much more clearly, and you'll be able to be present with them without getting unbalanced anywhere near as much. That certainly will change. And certainly you'll have much less reaction to pleasant and unpleasant things in general. You'll notice that you'll sort of enjoy the pleasant things more, and your mind will be more calm. It won't be like this. And you'll find that even when unpleasant things appear, they won't sort of bother you too much.
So you're still enjoying the pleasant things, but you're not as reactive to unpleasant things?
And of course, you're not reactive. By being reactive to the pleasant things, you're not enjoy, because you're like this. So in both cases, you're reacting, and of course, the less you do, the more you enjoy the pleasant things, and the less the unpleasant things disturb you.
Can you return about the system of the stillness and the motion meditation?
Can I do what with the stillness and motion?
Return the system, how the system.
Repeat.
I just explain it again?
A bit.
Right. So what we've been doing today, particularly us as beginners, to be able to observe our thoughts and emotions, for most people is very difficult because we have a strong habit of always getting caught up and following. So that's why today we explicitly were focusing on stillness. Because by resting in stillness and explicitly focusing on that gives us a good foundation for observing the thoughts. Because that means if we're resting in that stillness, our mind is very open and spacious. Whereas often our mind is like this, and then some thought and emotion comes, we react. Whereas if you have it more like this, by resting in stillness, your mind has much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Sphere, no, not sphere, it provides a much better, no, not tolerance, much better, not environment, much better space for thoughts to emerge without contracting around them. So that's what we've been doing today.
No, in the last one, you say the stillness, motion, and to recognize what they are.
So in the one we just did now, we went to what was called open awareness sometimes. And open awareness, because up until today we were just observing mental events, thoughts, emotions, mental images. Earlier today we weren't focusing on sounds, sensations and so forth. But in this practice, which is a preparation for daily life, because in daily life we're observing whatever's around us, including sensory. So therefore we included in this meditation the sense objects as well to prepare for daily life.
And you, in this...
And then I specifically asked to pay particular attention to any reactions, because in daily life we react a lot. Something pleasant comes, we go like this. Something unpleasant, we go like this. And if we can notice those reactions, then that'll be helpful not to get caught up in it. So that's why I asked here in this meditation to pay close attention to any reactions, to see how we are reacting to pleasant and unpleasant things. Because if we can see that reaction, then we're already free of it.
I can put the scale here, the scale to work with the scale.
The sliding scale? Yeah. So again, if you're getting caught up, you go more into stillness. Yes.
If a pain raises up,
What's it?
pain
In the body appears, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not doing anything, I just look
Observing
at
it, yeah.
and I don't move and nothing. That's the kind of, okay, I observe it and I don't react. That's key.
In this meditation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, that doesn't mean that if some strong pain is there, you just ignore it.
I mean meditation pain like
Sure, yeah. Exactly. So in this open awareness, you probably will notice some sensations in the body coming up and just observe it.